Welcome to the Prep Huddle, everybody. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside Jeff Johnson. It is the 2023 football season, and it's upon us. Of course, we're shorthanded. Jeff Linder, he'll be here for week one, but still finishing up a preseason vacation, and we'll be anxious to get Jeff back in the saddle here next week in the podcast. But JJ, as Dale Jones always said, the fastest 9 weeks of the quickest 9 weeks of the year is starting. There's week zero stuff, but we won't talk about. We won't include week zero and what actually is the start of the football season.
I want to know where the summer went, Pilch. Holy cow.
Yeah, right.
It seems like we always say that every year. It seems like it goes faster and faster and faster. But yeah, let's go. I mean, it doesn't feel like football season. Everybody hydrate tomorrow night and Saturday if you're playing Saturday.
It's funny that you mentioned that because earlier today I was thinking about covered a sub-state baseball game between Kennedy and Clinton where it had to have been about 60 degrees, cool breeze, and everybody in the Kennedy press box was talking about how this feels like a football Friday night. This week hasn't felt like a football Friday or a football week leading into games, has it?
No, I'm trying to remember back. I don't think any day in the baseball post season or postseason was as hot as this
I
week's
don't think
been.
so.
So it's just kind of loony that way. But it's exciting. This is a time of the year I think we all look forward to, and that includes us, includes you and me, and Lindy and everybody. As we go on this journey, this quick journey, as you mentioned, together. And Filch, you were actually at a week zero game. We had some
Yeah,
eight player
it
games
was
last
cool.
night,
It was cool
right?
and mild out there. But yeah, I went out to Springville for the first Friday of competition. Um, I'll refuse to call it week zero. Uh,
Sorry.
that's all right. Um, but yeah, went out to Springville for the opener between the Orioles and um, Baxter. Um, Springville returning quite a few players from a year ago, even though they're still young. I think only one senior uh, really on their roster, um, which tells you a little something. A lot of sophomores um, playing key roles for the Orioles. Baxter won 52-23, but I think it was a little bit closer than what the score really kind of indicates. Um, and I know that sounds pretty stupid, but it really was. I think it was a 6 point game midway through the third quarter. So the Orioles kind of battled with them a little bit. Um, but Baxter got on a roll. I think they had a couple big passes, and that was something that they did right out of the gate. 65-yard bomb on the first play between Parent Soulsley, um, and then to Trayton Travis. I think there are two Travis brothers, so I had to make sure I had the right one. But Trayton Travis, uh, they connected 13 times for. I had him for 232 yards. I think Baxter had him for a little bit more than that um, officially. So, but big plays from Baxter allowed them to kind of pull away. Then there's a turnover and a fumble return for a touchdown, and you know, then we got to a running clock. So that whole anchorman line where he says, "Well, that escalated quickly." Um, that certainly came into play there late in the third quarter and early fourth, but um, you know, they showed some big playability. as well. Conlon Rouse, a sophomore for the Orioles. He kind of led them, and he had three catches for 73 yards. He was somebody that broke his arm last year. Was able to come back in like their last game against GMG, and played like one quarter of his freshman year. Um, but he put in a lot of time in the offseason to get back, and he's kind of got a bright future. I think they could do a lot of good things with him. And of course, uh, they they changed up some formations. Joe Martin ran some uh, kind of tricky formations, and had some maybe unorthodox plays that they were able to capitalize on. So that would be something to kind of keep an eye on. How Rouse does. They have three guys at quarterback that threw passes. Mason Hoy led the way with 44 yards. He completed 3 of 5 passes. He also ran for 65 yards, so another good athlete there for the Orioles. Um, you know, Baxter came off a really good season last year, um, and they had to reload a little bit. It looks like they did. Um, but I know Joe Martin was really pleased with just the effort and the fight that they had. They're still young, they're still learning. I think they're going to get a couple wins this season, but they're just so young, and they have a tough schedule in front of them. So it'll be interesting to see how those things go. And actually, there are a few more games along with that as far as area teams go. Lone Tree went to Parkview Christian Academy, I believe is in Illinois, right?
Yep.
They came away with a 54-16 victory uh, there. Uh, see, actually, Belle Plaine played Clarksville. Uh, Belle Plaine is an 8-man team, right?
Yeah. First year is an 8-man school or
Kind
8-player school. Yep.
of interesting there. Clarksville edged them 34-32. English Valley, the Bears were a big winner. They beat Cal Wheat 62-48. And then Iowa Valley beat BGM 48-30. So two good area 8-man programs facing off there in the first week of competition.
I think
And
that was Cal Wheat's first game. I think they'd
oh,
run a
was it
only
really?
I think they'd run a JV or kind of a pseudo JV exhibition scheduled the previous 2 years to kind of build up to this point. So it's nice to see. I mean, that's a school that's never had football, period. So
Really? I didn't realize that they have never had a football program until now.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and I mean, it's not a super small school. I don't think by any stretch. It's not a big school, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, those kids, I suppose they fed into what North Cedar, I think, would probably be the nearest school district. But yeah, decided to have their own football program. So kudos to Cal Wheat. Hopefully they'll get a win here before this season concludes.
Yeah. So uh, in that interesting thing there, two players from each team had 7 touchdowns. Miles
Ah,
Grove for English Valleys went for 7 scores, and then Braden, I'm gonna probably butcher his last name, Braden Svedja, uh, Svedja. So um, he had 7 touchdowns for Cal Wheat.
wow,
Yep, a
you
lot of
don't see that.
scoring, and yeah, how'd you like to set a school record out of the gate like that? 7 touchdowns, even though it's 8-player, 7 touchdowns could, you know, is certainly
Yeah,
within striking distance,
exactly.
depending on player and teams and everything. Um, so yeah, so a little bit of action from last Friday. Of course, it feeds into this week, week one, um, the big one. And of course, if you go to our website, thegazette.com, you can see all of our preseason stories and our features from each class, district breakdowns from Jeff Linder as well. So you can go there and catch up on all our preseason if you haven't been following along already. And of course, one of those stories is in Class 5A. Um, you got out to Cedar Rapids, Kennedy. Uh, Pretty neat story about one of their additions. A big lineman that has a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, Kennedy feels like it's going to have a really good team, and part of the reason for the optimism is Nikolai Brooks, his formal name. 6'8", 385 pounds with a size 17 shoe. He is a massive human being, and he can move. He can dunk a basketball easily.
Wow.
He can pull, on counter plays and things like that, according to Coach Brian White. He's a kid that grew up here in Cedar Rapids, went to Harding Middle School with most of the kids. He's a junior, with most of the kids on this Kennedy team, and then went to Georgia for a couple of years. He's had a tough family life, no question about that. Um, you know, uh, a lot of different things going on there. He's got 17 siblings and step siblings. Um, a lot of challenges in his young life so far. He went down to Georgia. An aunt took him down there. She got parental rights, took him down there for a couple of years. And he worked with Brandon Jacobs, the old NFL running back, the Giants,
Oh, wow. Yep.
who has a son that's his age. Kind of trained him and took him under his wing a little bit. Went to a school down there and really showed out and kind of proved that he's a big time, potentially a big time football player. And he's a 4-star guy, offensive lineman. Everybody wants him. Alabama's offered, Georgia's offered, Clemson, Iowa here, things like that. So I mean, everybody wants him. He's got massive size and ability to go with it. And he wanted to come back home. And there's some factors that kind of led him back here. And Kennedy's glad to have him. He's been a great addition. He knows all these kids, so he's fit in very well. They provided him that family structure, I think that he really needs, as a young man. And it's going to be really interesting to see him and to watch him. Kennedy's got Dowling right away on Saturday night at Kingston Stadium. So I mean, there's nothing like a battle at two of the top 10, certainly two of the top 10 teams in the state, maybe two of the top five, depending on whose rankings you want to go by.
Right.
Right there on Saturday night. So it's going to be a lot of fun out there, and I think people need to keep an eye out for Nikolai Brooks. You can't miss him.
Right. Yeah, Dowling certainly will be a great gauge. Um, for him as an individual leading things up front for Kennedy, but for the Cougars as a whole, one of those nice early season tests that you can certainly learn a lot from and really, use as a springboard. Uh, Now, remind me, how big was he that you said? How big was he?
6'8", 385.
And Whitey said he's going to be he can pull.
He can
How would
pull.
you like to be on the train tracks with that guy getting a full head of steam coming at you around end? If I was a scraping linebacker, I may want to make sure my life insurance was paid up full. Make
How do
sure
you,
my parents,
if you're a defender, how do you try and deal with a guy that big. Seriously, Pilch. I mean, you know football, you played it.
I have no idea. I wasn't. Uh, I remember running into Joe Mitchell in a practice and got bounced 10 yards away. I think um, once. So my suggestion is try to get around him. But if he's that quick and can move, good luck with that too. But yeah, you're definitely going to have to try to avoid taking him head on. That's for sure. With that size and if he can move, my goodness. Um, Kennedy, Kennedy, one of the top returning teams in 5A. One of the other ones in the area, Iowa City High, coming off a stellar season last year. They've got some holes to fill, but they kind of have an interesting matchup here on Friday. If you check out J.R. Ogden's story at thegazette.com about that, they face Joliet Catholic out of Illinois, kind of maybe a little bit of an unusual meeting or an uncommon meeting. Um, According to JR's story, Mitch Moore said Joliet Catholic sent out feelers. They like to take one out of state trip for a game each year. And the minute uh, they reached out to City High, Moore jumped at the opportunity. That's one of the top teams or top programs in Illinois. I believe JR mentioned that just kind of looking here. According to their website, 34 state national championships. Uh, they have an Illinois record, 15 sanctioned state titles, and they have won 28 of their last 31 games. Mitch Moore mentioned that he said it's bringing a little juice to the program. So let's bring some excitement, and they'll get a lot of pageantry and history with uh, Joliet coming to Bates Field, um, and you know why not? Why not have a game like that to start off and um, it'd be fun and you like to see these big matchups like City High, Joliet, Kennedy Dowling on a Saturday at Kingston, which I really like the idea of Saturday games at Kingston. Um, I can remember back because I think of whether they had a Kennedy Linmar game once at Kingston on a Saturday, which was really cool. I just kind of like the idea of those special matchups early in the season.
Yeah, I mean there's so many good ones. Mike Allstott, by the way, I know you remember him, the old Buccaneers
Oh
running
yeah,
back.
battering ram.
Yes, he was a Joliet Catholic grad. So
I did not know that.
he's it's a great program there. I can't even remember how many classes there are in Illinois, more than there are here.
Is it?
Joliet Cat, yeah, they're not in the biggest class in Illinois, but not right around the middle. But it's a great program, and like you mentioned, Pilch, we got so many great games on week one. Around here, Prairie and Cedar Falls are playing right away. Liberty and Iowa City West. Ankeny
Liberty,
Centennial and Ankeny.
Liberty now
Jeff,
a 5A. Liberty
yeah,
now a 5A school.
yeah, that's a great point. First year in 5A for Liberty. You mentioned City High and Joliet Catholic. Um, Valley and Southeast Polk play right away. I mean, let's go, right?
Yeah,
Let's nothing like enough of the patsies on week one for teams that are supposed to be really good. We've got so many enticing matchups in 5A in week one. It's pretty incredible, and it's going to be really fun to see who wins these games and who stakes a claim early in the season to being among the state's best in 5A.
and you mentioned a lot of these teams, but we'll run down the Gazette's preseason uh, poll in 5A. You got number one Southeast Polk with 57 points and 5 first place votes. The other first place vote went to West Des Moines Dowling, who we mentioned will be at Kingston on Saturday. They're at number 2. Cedar Falls coming to Prairie here in week 1. John Wallfield. And I understand there's going to be a little bit of a tribute to John Bubba Randalls. Kind of got goosebumps just
Very nice.
kind of
Very
mentioning
nice.
it. So look forward to being out there. I'll be out there for that. And kind of look forward to that tribute to one of the great guys and sports
Yep.
kind of supporters and announcers out there
Yep.
as well. Johnston comes in at number 4. Then we got West Des Moines Valley at number 5. Then Kennedy and City High back to back at 6 and 7. Pleasant Valley number 8. Number 9 Waukee Northwest, and then Linmar rounding out the top 10. Ankeny, Centennial, Ames, Waukee, Liberty, who you'll be covering at West, and then Cedar Rapids Prairie, all receiving votes in Class 5A. Linmar is certainly a team to kind of keep an eye on
Yep.
as well. And the Lions will start their season at Dubuque Senior this Friday. Let's shift to Class 4A. And since we're talking about rankings, we'll run down the top 10 in Class 4A. Number 1 with it's kind of interesting with the first place votes too. Cedar Rapids Xavier, the returning or defending state champs. They're number 1. They received 2 first place votes. And then there's a tie at second with Bondurant Farrar, which received 1 first place vote. And then Council Bluffs Central ended up with more first place votes than anybody with 3. The state runner up from a year ago. And then, what was it, 2021 champion there as well. Then you've got the ADM, who's moved up a class, North Scott, Western Dubuque, Glenwood, Newton, Waverly Shell Rock. Newton and Waverly Shell Rock tied for 8th, and then North Polk finishing out the top 10. And then you've got Carlisle, Dallas Center, Grimes, Lamar's, Ballard, Burlington, and Marion all receiving votes. Interesting with Marion, they start on the road at Clear Creek Amana. Actually, they're on the road the first 2 weeks, and they don't get their first home game in their brand new stadium until week 3. I think week 2 they're at Benton. But the Wolves, brand new stadium. Talked to some of the players and the team, and they talked about the benefits of having this facility. Obviously, in the spring, it got christened with a track and soccer games, but now football, it'll be a whole different atmosphere. They say goodbye to the historic Thomas Park. I'm sure there's some bittersweet feelings, maybe from some of the past Marion players and community members, because that was such a nostalgic place to play for them. But no more bus rides down the hill to that stadium, and they have this nice, great facility. The thing I thought was interesting, talking to Michael Joyner, the coach at Marion, the infill is not rubber; it's wood.
Oh,
And
really?
that surprised me. I didn't realize, that was something they did. I mean, I immediately think wood. I think coarse, hard,
Yeah.
going to get torn up. But apparently, it works and it keeps it cooler. So, like this week when we've had this big heat wave, it's like 10 to 15 degrees cooler, which, even though a lot of teams have shifted to practicing when the sun's not out, either 7 to 9 at night or early in the morning. Anyway, but just a lot of great opportunities for the Wolves to get on there. They don't have to worry about rain or anything like that. We did have like a little small time where it rained really hard in a short amount of time, and Joyner said we probably would have come out to practice and they would have been telling us, "Oh, you can't use this part of the field. You can't use this area. And usually that's the area where we have it chalked up with lines and running certain things that we need those lines. And they don't have to worry about that anymore. So that's kind of nice. And they actually only have 2 games on grass this year. When
Well,
they go up to Waverly Shell Rock into Decorah, those are 2 natural surfaces that they'll still have to play on. And Joyner said that they have a little grass area um, to practice on to get ready for that. But uh, the Wolves are coming off a 5-4 record, their first winning season in about 6 years. Uh, they've won their last 3 games, and they're like, remember, did they get leapfrogged by Cedar Rapids, Washington,
yeah,
um, for that last playoff spot? So that was an early season loss that
yeah.
ended up affecting them. So they were really close to making uh, the playoffs. They have to replace Alex Moda, obviously. Caleb Deers, junior quarterback. He's somebody that has made some big strides, and they're going to rely on a lot. And then you've got Trey Frank, a big part of their success. He's a middle linebacker, fullback. They're going to be leaning heavily on him on both sides of the ball as well. They've got some guys up front, so it'll be interesting to see how they put things together. But they start at Clear Creek Amana here on week 1, and then I want to say maybe Makokata um, for their week 3 game. But that's my story at thegazette.com if you want to go look at it. Um, we
It'll be
mentioned Xavier. Go ahead.
sorry, Pilch. I was just gonna say, I mean, and that's really interesting and a tough game right away for Marion tomorrow night against Clear Creek and Mana. Clear Creek could have a real nice team. I mean, they got Quentin Tron, who transferred in from City High after playing, quarterback there for a couple of years. He's CCA's new quarterback, so the Wolves are gonna, be tested right away out of the gate, and we'll see. And boys, hang in there. You will get a home game at your new field. But it seemed, it was supposed to happen last year. It just didn't, which was unfortunate. But I don't know where the heck everybody's going to park out there, but that's a whole totally separate matter.
Yeah, right. Uh, um, and don't forget, Clear Creek Amana has the club kid too.
Brody Club, yeah, yeah.
Big guy up front on both sides that is a difference maker as well. So yeah, that'll be a good game. And Mike Condon, our correspondent Mike Condon, will be out at Tiffin for that matchup between the Wolves and the Clippers. Um,
And
as
you
we
were talking
mentioned,
about Xavier. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, that's uh, as we mentioned, Xavier. The Saints are the top ranked team in our poll in Class 4A. They're coming off 2 straight championship game appearances, winning last year. Obviously, they returned some key guys, including Ronan Thomas. They've got 3 starters up front that uh, that are going to be key. They've got some guys on the defensive side like Eddie Baku as
Nice.
well. That I think they're going to be really good up front. And can do some things in the trenches. They do have a lot of skill guys to kind of replace with the likes of Aiden McDermott, Michael Cunningham. Um, they were also defensive contributors where you have uh, like Cunningham. The linebacker core is something that they're going to really have to replace because Thomas Sundell, Cunningham, Joseph Lemker. Those guys have graduated, but we've seen it time and time again. Xavier just kind of reloads. You've got coaches like Schulte and O'Connell who have systems that they've been running the entire 26 years they've had at Xavier. So they know how to get those scout team guys to slide in and become starters. And you still got guys like, as we mentioned, Ronan Thomas, who was a good leader offensively for them. Grant Helmley. I think they expect some big things out of guys like Quinn Olson as well this year. So, uh, they start with a nice test at Waverly Shell Rock right out of the gates. And then they got Williamsburg at home the following week. So we'll get a good gauge of where they're at here to start the season. But they look like they're poised to be able to kind of reload and make another run um, at the Uda Dome. Speaking of Williamsburg, we'll switch to Class 3A. Um, our rankings in 3A. You've got Mount Vernon number one with 4 first place votes. Of course, they return kind of the heart and soul of their big passing attack. Romberg, right?
Yep. Joey Romberg. Yep.
Joey Romberg. So they've got some young talent defensively. Jaspers. He was a big player for them last year. I'm sure one of the leaders coming back for the Mustangs. Williamsburg is number 2, moving up from 2A to 3A after being the 2A runner-up last year. They're ranked second in our preseason poll with 1 first place vote. Defending champ Harlan, who battled Mount Vernon in the finals. Mount Vernon without Romberg. But a heck of an effort by Paul Ryan against the Cyclones there. But Harlan is number 3 with 1 first place vote. Then we go Webster City, Nevada, Humboldt, Solon coming in at number 7, led by Brett White. Number 8, Hampton Dumont Cal. And then a 3-way tie for 9th with Clear Lake, Creston, and Independence. Fort Madison, Sioux Center, Carroll, Davenport Assumption, DeWitt Central, MOC Floyd Valley, West Delaware, Algona, Benton, and Sioux City Heelan, all receiving votes. That's a lot of teams being included right away. Maybe it's a sign of parity in 3A. But Williamsburg, I don't think you can really think about Williamsburg at the moment without thinking Derek Weisskopf, the Iowa commit. He's a heck of an athlete, state champion high jumper, all-state basketball player, all-stater from a year ago, does a little bit of everything. Sounds like they're going to expand his role a little bit. He's been kind of a defensive back and wide receiver. Sounds like they're moving him down to tight end for some packages and at times, and then moving him to linebacker instead of kind of a safety role. And linebackers where he projects at the University of Iowa too. So I think Hawkeye fans will be really interested to kind of get a look at him. And what I thought was really interesting with all these athletic skills and talents he has, right? The one thing Kurt Ritchie said that he thinks will make him really successful as a Hawkeye is the fact that he does have this team first mentality, that he's a competitor. He wants to go out there. It doesn't matter if you have him under center. It doesn't matter if you have him wide, lined up wide, or if you bring him in tight and have him as a kind of a 6th blocker there on the line. He'll do it all. It doesn't matter. It's kind of one of those yes, coach kind of players. We need you to go do this. All right. Yes, coach, that's fine. And that does translate especially to a system at Iowa City. So
I don't, Phil, does he remind you a bigger version maybe of a Josie Jewell that way?
Yeah. He's at 6'3",
Taller,
210.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
Has those intangibles, do anything for the team. Great team guy.
I think that's a really good comparison when you talk about that and that competitive nature.
Yeah. Humble. We all knew Josie was always very humble and still is apparently. But Kurt Ritchie, I mean, he's like We're moving up to 3A, so let's go play West Branch first week, Xavier second week. What the heck, you know? I love that. I mean, but that's always been the philosophy there is schedule tough games before you head into your district because it's only going to make you better. And the schedule again is non-district is incredibly tough for Williamsburg.
Yep. And they're thrown into a pretty tough district too, with
Yeah,
Solon being in there. And uh so that's what, yeah, like you said, it's only going to make them better. And we've seen them have like a, I think it was 1-3 record the one year,
yeah.
and they end up, then they steamrolled through their district and ended up being a semifinalist. So yeah, they're they're not they don't shy away from anything, and they certainly have a great attitude because they turn that into uh, a positive kind of going forward. You learn from those uh, games as well. One other thing too that they have, that not a lot of schools have. One, they have this brand new weight facility, so be interesting to see how that may have affected things. More of a state of the art facility. I believe their strength and conditioning coach is Mickey Hines. You remember him? He was
Mount
a
Vernon.
standout from Mount Vernon. Played at Cornell.
Yes.
Unfortunately, extremely athletic. Unfortunately, he had some knee injuries that ended up really kind of limiting his college career. But he was, when it comes to athleticism, uh, you know, he was always impressive. I think he's uh, helping with the strength and conditioning there, um, and coaching. But they also have an former NFL lineman now on staff. Austin Blythe is retired from the NFL. He's back home. Think sounded like he was maybe a little hesitant about getting into full time coaching, but now he's settled in. He likes it. That's only going to help
Awesome.
uh, Williamsburg. And it's funny. Speaking of Weisskopf, being down at tight end, he's been working with Blythe about blocking and stuff like that and trying to soak in. He said he's soaking in, him and the rest of the linemen are trying to soak in everything that Austin's been trying to teach them. Um, but once they started doing that, Kurt Ritchie said Austin kept trying to get his mitts on Derek and keep him down there as another blocker and wanting to get his hands on him a little bit more. And he's like, hey, we got other things for him to do too. So kind of interesting on that dynamic. But that's only gonna only gonna help Williamsburg. And I've got to give a shout out to Grant Eckenrod as well. Their longtime defensive coordinator, one of the most fiery, passionate guys. Also, the head wrestling coach at Williamsburg. He is not part of the staff anymore. Kind of enjoying his family a little bit in the fall. Um, so he's going to be kind of a spectator this fall. It'll be a different role, but for many years, Grant was the defensive coordinator there for a very aggressive and talented Williamsburg team and their teams. And there'll be a changing of the guard there for Williamsburg defense, but I assume it's going to be pretty much the same there. In Williamsburg, you mentioned it right out of the gate. They have West Branch at home. Um, and you went down to West Branch in the preseason. Um, it's going to be they're going to try to keep everything the same, but it's going to be different without the late Butch Peterson being on the sideline or in the press box as it
Yeah,
was last season.
yeah.
Uh,
You could even kind of tell it at the practice I went to. It was his aura. It's still, I could feel it. It's still there. I mean, it's gonna be there. No question. But the Bears are wearing helmets with instead of the Bears script on one side, it's gonna say Butch, in honor of the late coach who passed away in the spring after battle with a blood cancer. Um, the his assistant coaches, um, and Jake Stenberg, their activities director, they kind of came to a conclusion that Butch was kind of in on the planning for this season's team when he passed, and they wanted to honor him by making him the honorary head coach this season. So, their preseason questionnaire under head coach it's listed Butch Peterson, 40th year, etc. Of course, those for official record keeping purposes, they won't be wins and losses. That'll go on his record. It'll be John Hirschman, who's kind of the de facto head coach now. But they have a statue that's going up at the Little Rose Bowl, Elephant Street Stadium, of Butch, with his arms crossed, which is the way that I think you always kind of remembered him,
Yep.
looking out onto the field
With
there.
his hat and his arms
Yeah,
crossed. Yep.
exactly. The family has started a memorial fund that will uh, help give a scholarship, two scholarships annually to West Branch grad who heads on to college, and it also will give some money to the local food bank or food pantry there, which is a great gesture as well. But I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, it's weird, certainly for everybody. But I mean, the system's in place. That hasn't changed. What's run offensively and defensively isn't going to change. Butch, wasn't as Coach Hirschman kind of said when I talked to him that Butch wasn't really actively an X's and O's guy as much in his later seasons as head coach as he was, kind of the CEO, Kirk Ferentz type of role might be a pretty accurate comparison. Um, Marv Cook, another guy, right, was more of a CEO type head coach that let his coaches do the coaching, a lot of the coaching. So, I mean, that's not going to change. This team expects to win. It probably will win. It has a number of returning players back up front, in particular, a strong line, which is always important. Finding some skill guys. I think they had four quarterbacks that were battling it out for the number one spot when I was there a couple weeks ago. So, but it's going to be a weird season, certainly for everybody there. But Butch is still their guy, still their coach, and these Bears are going to be, I think, a pretty good football team in 1A.
We'll touch on the 1A and 2A rankings here. You mentioned West Branch. They come in at number 9, but uh, number 1, it's Grundy Center with 5 first place votes. Underwood, number 2, with 1 first place vote. Then you've got MFL Marmac, Sigourney Keota, South Hamilton, uh, Avoca, and Waterloo Columbus are tied for 6th. Then you got Regina at 8, West Branch, Applington, Parkersburg, Gazette area teams. Uh, in Class 2A include Monticello. They're number 7, and they open the season at Mount Vernon, number 1 Mount Vernon in 3A. So that'll be a
Another
good
good,
one. And of course,
yep,
Preston Reese, the leader there for Monticello. They'll be banking on him, a future Hawkeye as well. Very athletic, does a lot of, can do just about everything for Monticello. But in 2A, for top ranked team, Van Meter with just 2 first place votes, and then Central Lion GLR number 2 with 4 first place votes. Then they go Spirit Lake, Western Christian, Greene County, West Lion, Carroll Kemper, Osage, West Marshall. In Class A, I think everybody's looking at East Buck in the area to be really, really good. But number 1 is West Hancock with 4 first place votes. Woodbury Central with 2 first place votes. Then you've got the Buccaneers at number 3, Linville Sully number 4, Columbus Community number 5, Southwest Valley 6, Madrid, Nashua Plainfield, Lamar's Galen, St. Ansgar, rounding out the top 10. Other teams that have received first place votes: Mac Valley with 6, North Lynn with 1, and of course North Lynn goes to Albernet, which is kind of an intriguing game here for week 1 for both of those. Even though neither one of them are ranked, both coming off really good seasons a year ago.
And rivals. They've become good rivals. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're part of that 3-way battle with East Buck last year. Albernet, I believe, moved up a class. But yeah, so this will be a nice haymaker of a game, I guess. One of those snot bubble kind of games, maybe.
New coaching staff at Albernet. So you have that factoring in. Mason Betchen, the top running back for North Lynn last season, decided to not play football this year. He's going to concentrate on baseball, which is his passion, and probably get ready for hoop season as well. So that puts a little kink in North Lynn's plans for the season. But yeah, still always a entertaining affair in any sport when those two schools meet. You mentioned Grundy. Grundy moved up the Class A champ last year. Has moved up to 1A and has almost everybody back skill position wise from last season. So going to be a tough out in in that class, no doubt. And East Buck, as you mentioned, Pilch, with Fox, was it Taylor Fox, right? The young man who's committed to University of Iowa up front for them. And
and cousin of Ben Keeter, who was our athlete of the year now at Iowa.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Very good.
And then our preseason poll in 8-player, Gladbrook Rhinebeck, the number 1 team. They returned quite a bit. They received 4 first place votes. Caminita is number 2. They received 1 first place vote. Central City coming in at number 3. Winfield Mount Union, Southeast Ward, Moravia, Fremont Mills, Remsen St. Mary's, who received 1 of the first place votes. Returning state champ or runner up? You remember?
Let's see. Remsen won it last year.
Okay.
Remsen won it last year. That 3-4, Winfield and Central City starting out right away. So many good games in week 1. All the way up, down, 5A all the way to 8-player. It's great. I'm really excited for this week 1 schedule. Really, really am.
Lennox and Waco round out the top 10 there in 8-player. And of course, big expectations for Central City. I believe we have a feature. Maybe Ryan Plagenkuhl put together a feature from Central City on our website, part of that preseason stuff. But big, I think some big aspirations here for the Wildcats this year. Could be their best team ever.
Yeah, what a great job Matt Myers has done, transitioning them and being the head coach up there. I mean, he was assistant coach at Kennedy, didn't know a lick about 8-player football. When he took over that head coaching job, and it's become a program, a really good program. They've had success in the past. They're younger, their youth teams are always very successful. The middle school, and it just kind of feeds up to the high school level. Aiden Klosterman's a really, really good player for them, but he's just a start. I mean, they have a number of really good players, and they're going to be a factor in eight player. I think this season, and I think one other game they're playing right away is Gladbrook Rhinebeck and Don Bosco, if I saw right, are playing right away. Again, it just goes back to the schedule. So, man, let's kick this sucker off. I'm pumped, man. If I can get my voice back, battling COVID, if you know, folks, sorry about it. Feeling better. going to be out. My isolation ends today. So we'll be out and about tomorrow night, masked up appropriately, of course.
Well, uh, wish you continued healing and stuff from that. I just want to remind everybody where we will be on Friday. Jeff Johnson will be heading down to Iowa City West for that game against Iowa City Liberty. I will be at John Wall Field to watch Prairie host Cedar Falls. Jeff Linder will be heading to Mount Vernon to take in that ranked battle between Monticello and the Mustangs. Coley Klein, one of our correspondents, will be at Kingston Stadium for the game between Dubuque Hempstead and Cedar Rapids, Washington. As we mentioned, Mike Condon will be at Tiffin for the Marion Clear Creek Amana week 1 game, and then Brian Plagencule will be at is it Bob Brown Field?
Yes, good call.
In Williamsburg. Okay, I was trying to remember. I think it's Bob Murphy Stadium and then Brown Field at Williamsburg for that game with West Branch. The remaining Metro Iowa City games on the docket for week 1. As we mentioned, Xavier heads to Waverly Shell Rock for that top 10 matchup. West Liberty at Regina. City High hosting Illinois Power Joliet Catholic. Linmar heads to Dubuque Senior. And then Cedar Rapids Jefferson heads to Muscatine in week 1. A couple other games just to kind of mention Western Dubuque at West Delaware. Bill Logan will get us a report from that game. That'll be a big one there. In Manchester, Waukon and Decorah. That's a rivalry game. Those two football programs. That's a nice rivalry. As well to kind of kick things off. And then speaking of kind of territorial games, Benton Shellsburg and Benton Community will face off here in week 1 as well. So like to thank you. Well, first, give me a team. Do a pick that clicks here. Out of those Metro and Iowa City schools, give me a winner.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say Kennedy beats Dowling.
Really? Okay.
That's a big limb.
All right.
But for a short one, I don't know what you want to say, but just that's my upset special.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good. Boy. You know what? I'm going to throw something against the wall and hope it sticks. I'm not sure if it will.
That's all we do here. So
yeah. I know. That's kind of the routine. That's the given, really. You know what? I'm going to throw some love behind the Jayhawks here, mainly because I hope they kind of get some things going. I want to see Jefferson go down and get a win against Muscatine.
I like that.
I'm not necessarily saying they will, but I'm saying I want to see that. So that's the pick I'll take. I'll take Jefferson kind of getting an early season win, maybe.
I like that.
Hopefully. Any parting thoughts or words of wisdom here before we sign off of week 1?
Hydrate, everybody. Hydrate.
That's
players, coaches, right? And fans. Hydrate tomorrow night.
And media members in press boxes.
Exactly.
So on behalf of Jeff Johnson, our colleague Jeff Linder, Nathan Ford, the man behind the scenes that allows us to get on here and do this every week for you guys, we want to say thanks for watching. Enjoy the football coming up, and we'll see you guys next week.